Okay, so joining with audio, we're going to share the screen. Okay, and then give me just a moment. I gotta start mine upstairs. Okay. Aziz, are you able to hear me okay?
Yep, perfectly.
Okay, give me just a moment.
Can you hear the sound from me?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. It looks like we have the guests coming through. Go ahead and try and advance your slides to make sure that part's working.
Nope.
So try clicking into the PowerPoint and then hitting left and right.
I'm using the keyboard.
Yeah, so it might be stuck on the Zoom window. You might have to click the actual PowerPoint.
Oh.
Perfect, perfect. So then, and then you should be able to use your arrows left and right to go back. Awesome. So it looks like we are good to start today. It looks like we have Jen Hackman's in here, Jay Wilkinson, Mandy's in here. Awesome, thanks so much for coming. Paul Kimmel, Preston and Ron. I want to say Wachter. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I am so sorry. Preston says the audio sounds good on both ends, so we're able to actually start right away. It is 10:02. So Aziz, if you'd like to begin, we can.
Good morning, and thank you for attending this, what I call as the second round. My first round was on April 7th, and it seems like an eternity. A lot of obviously has happened since then. So what I wanted to do today is to share with you the elements of round two, what I call as round two. But before I get into the PPP and EIDL and all of that, I wanted to share two programs that hasn't been spoken much about, and you may consider this to fit your small business needs. The first program is through the Treasury Department. The IRS has a program called Employee Retention Credit, and that's for up to $10,000 in wage paid that can be refundable tax credit. And the beauty of this program is that you can take the tax that you may be withholding for your employees and not even report it, and just keep it. So when you report it, you just simply say it's applied towards the credit. The requirement is that you have to have been shut by the coronavirus program. So if it was, you were open for business, then you would not be eligible. The one thing that I want to mention to you about this is that it is mutually exclusive to the PPP. It's separate from the PPP, but you can only use this or the PPP for credit. So that's the one requirement about this. Again, for what is it? How does my business qualify? So it's a pretty broad range, March 12th through January 1st. So it's, hopefully you can utilize it. And you can also include a portion of the employer provided health care. So, it could be pretty significant for perhaps a, medium-sized company. So if you're waiting for the PPP, or you haven't received any PPP, or the first time you were denied, whatever the case may be, this might be an alternative. It's an immediate reimbursement, so there is no waiting period. You just keep the money, and way to go. So again, I want to emphasize it's mutually exclusive to the PPP. You can only take one or the other, and there's the IRS link that that I have included in there for additional details. There are only 4 questions asked, and I have summarized those in the first 2 slides.
Okay.
The next program is not particularly a big money saver for you, but it's an L&I, Labor and Industries program. It's a waiver. If your business has been affected by by the closure, but you have had to pay the employees, but they haven't really come into to the work. So imagine you received a PPP and you brought back the employees, but they're really not working. So they're on your payroll, and because they are not at your facility and they are not endangering themselves, so workers' compensation that you would contribute, you can keep that. So it's a waiver. So it may not be very significant, but I thought I would mention it to you. This is not well talked about. You should expect a letter from Labor and Industries, and if you haven't received one, by all means, please contact LNI or let me know, and I can try to reach it on your behalf.
So Aziz, I actually have a question on this. So so 2 scenarios. One is if they're maybe working from home but not coming into the office, does that still count as work?
No. Sorry. Meaning, that's a really good question, actually. I hadn't thought about that. But, you know, hair salons, nail people, I'm not sure what kind of salons, they're not endangering themselves by not being at the work facility. Those are particularly the ones that I was thinking of. I hadn't thought about working from home.
So scenario number 2, I actually know a couple of businesses that are in this mode of they have received PPP money, and so they're paying their workers for 40 hours a week, but then they are only paying, or they're only working 20 hours a week. So then does that mean that 20 that they're not working but are getting paid for, that workers' comp could be basically reimbursed?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes. The 20 hours,
awesome.
you would not report it. You would simply report the 20 hours on your quarterly reports to LNI. So that's a waiver part. There's also a deferral part, which, sorry, I apologize, I didn't make a slide for, but the deferral part works the following way. LNI has instituted a program where you can defer the payment. So aside from the employees not working, so if your employees were in fact working, they are in fact working at your facility, and you legitimately owe workers' comp, you can withhold that and not send it to LNI for a period of time. And the period of time is, it's a TBD at the moment.
Okay.
So hopefully that helps some.
Interesting.
So, and by the way, LNI program is not mutually exclusive, meaning you could still be participating in the PPP and take advantage of this program.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you. The next one is some of the things that PPP, PPP has made the national news. So some of it has been very negative. Large corporations have gotten the money, but it's been legitimate, because what they were required to sign previously was the first sentence. It was, current economic uncertainty makes this loan request necessary to support the ongoing operations of the applicant. And that's it. So they have refined it, and the part that is most relevant is now their ability to access other sources of liquidity. So if you're a large enough corporation and you have other liquidity, you have inventory, you have other means of supporting your business, you have shares, etc., this new requirement would make it ineligible. So some of the large corporations, and this is probably where they're now having to return the money, and the Justice Department has also said emphatically that if they are violating, Justice Department will pursue the cases aggressively. So there could be more money available for PPP, but I would be really cautious in holding my breath and expecting, if you haven't applied for it, you're going to be further down. And so depending on where your business is, that is something that you should assess carefully.
Interesting.
So round two is, of course, you know, this is what the SBA has provided to small business. Now the thing that they want to mention is expeditiously. So they are trying to push the applications in quickly, process them as quickly as possible. This morning on the news, there was a piece that said that SBA has worked with the banks and gone through 50,000 applications. That is still far behind their 1.7 million applications that they are behind. So from round one. So round one, money got it all used up, but now the money might be coming back. So there's some pool of money possibly, but between today and tomorrow, expect the second round of PPP to close. That's what the expectation is. So there's, you know, time is of essence. So I just want to emphasize that if you have not participated in the PPP, if you have not been able to sign up for PPP, please, you may want to just skip the webinar and just go do that. And as far as the banks go, this is the one area that SBA has really tried hard to try to get some of the small credit unions and smaller banks and online financial agencies to be qualified to take applications. And the one in the local area that comes to mind is the Spokane Teachers Credit Union that's been pretty aggressively taking applications. So if you have not applied for PPP yet, that may be a source for you. Zions Bank is also taking applications. As far as the total money goes, $310 billion for PPP, $50 billion for EIDL, and $10 billion for emergency EIDL grant. By the way, the $10 billion emergency EIDL grant, another name that you may have heard of is the EIDL advance. That's the in lieu of the PPP. And if you took the advance from EIDL, it would be subtracted from the PPP. And it has also expanded the different business structures that were previously ineligible. And I have a slide for that.
Interesting.
So now SBA has the guidance for the different business types. And this is all listed here for farm operations. I think that someone may, people in the local area might be interested in the farm. Also nonprofit companies, nonprofit, religious, veterans, and tribal. So there's a guidance for each of those. And I have a link that, that later on that will take you to the website that discusses the different business structures that I mentioned here. This is no real difference in how the PPP can be used from round one, but I'll go over it really quick. Salaries and wages not to exceed $100,000, including commissions, vacations, sick leave, severance, healthcare, all of that can be added to that. So in terms of calculation of what payroll cost is, it isn't really changed. Employee salaries, commissions, mortgage interest payments, rent, utilities, interest on pre-existing debt, refinance of EIDL loan. These are the different ways that you can use the money. And that hasn't changed. PPP waivers, it waives both guarantee fee and annual lender fee. So in this case, 1% is waived, waives credit elsewhere requirement, and the collateral and personal guarantee requirements is not required, and prepayment penalty is waived, and the guaranteed amount is 100% SBA guarantee. What that means is typically in normal conditions, meaning not in the crisis mode that we are in, SBA only guarantees 80% of the loans. And in this case, to the banks that are processing the PPP applications, there's no liability on them. 100% SBA will guarantee it in the default cases. I'm kind of going through these slides pretty quickly in hopes that we can address some of the questions that you might have. And one of the participants has already sent questions, so hopefully I can address those. Adam, is she attending?
What's that?
Is the questionnaire attending the?
Yes, yeah, they are.
Oh, good. No, I meant the lady that
Yes,
sent the
yeah.
question. Oh, good. These are the links that would interest you. The PPP business, various different business types, how to calculate, frequently asked questions, and the final rule on disbursement that just came out today. So these are the links that would interest you the most. I didn't want to go through all of these different questions, FAQs, but I have collected a few FAQs in the back of the slides that I can go through it. I went through it the first time, and I can go through them again for people that did not attend the first meeting. EIDL advance, no difference, up to $10,000. And the reason for up to $10,000 is it was changed in the midst of the first time when on the first round, when EIDL was announced, it was $10,000. So people had imagined that it would be $10,000 for each business, but they changed it to $1,000 per employee. So that's where the up to $10,000 comes in. And the coverage period is fairly large. But again, between the PPP and the grant amount, you cannot double dip. So for example, if your PPP amount is say $40,000 and you already received the $10,000, that this $10,000 would then become a loan. Here's the information from the Office of Disaster on the SBA, and of course you have you'll have my email address and phone number to contact. At the last slide of the presentation has my contact information, and I'm happy to take the calls and try to help you all. If you haven't yet participated and still need assistance, this is really the time to jump right in. So one of the questions that people may be asking, maybe want to know is, what do we expect when this round of PPP runs out? And it's quite possible that it will run out. As I mentioned, between today and tomorrow, it will run out. And that's the estimate based on the number of applications. And from the first round, as I mentioned, 1.7 million loan applications have been withheld. And so they are, of course, in the front of the queue. The second mistake that the Treasury Department made was that the large banks could front load their most expensive loans. So they processed the large companies that had, one of the local companies had as much as over $700,000. So they got their approved. So that really dried up the PPP funding quite fast. So that pushed out mom and pops. So today's Inc. magazine has a blog that they predict that there will be a third round, but they also predict some changes in the rules. And I don't know, I'm not too familiar with all of the rule changes that might be coming. But again, this is a possible scenario, but hopefully everyone by then will be able to take advantage of the program. Am I eligible? Yes, if you're a small business concern. Again, this slide is one from the last time, so I won't read the whole thing, but hopefully you understand where you fit in the grand scheme of things. Now I can address some of the questions that we got Adam, do you have any questions that people have asked?
Not quite yet. So I think if we want to start with the ones I emailed you before, we can start with that. And then if anyone else has additional questions, as Aziz has been talking, feel free to drop those into the chat.
This comes from Rachel. Hello, Rachel. Thank you for the questions. I'm a sole proprietor. I do not have a traditional payroll. I just pay myself after my taxes have been paid. So if you fill out a C, 1040C, or for sole proprietorship, if you fill out the C form, then you would have your earnings there and you would be able to take advantage of the PPP. So my question back to you is, what kind of tax form do you fill every year? The next question, am I allowed to apply for PPP given that I have a non-traditional payroll? The second question you asked was, I applied for the $1,000 grant for the EIDL program, but have not heard back. I have my application number. How can I find out my status? I can't find my login information. This may make it a little bit difficult if you don't have the login information, but the SBA contact information that I provided in the previous slide would be a good place to start. And there's also a phone number, and you could try to ask them, I'm eligible for unemployment in my state. Can I apply for EID or PPP or both and still get unemployment? Okay, this is a good question. It's mutually exclusive, so you cannot do all of those. So you have to decide which way is the better way for you to pursue. And this is an appropriate question because you are a sole proprietor. You are actually an only person in your business. So this question is a reasonable question. The last question you ask is, can I use any of these funds, EIL or PPP, for expenses related to reopening my business? Remember, the EIDL is for working capital. It's a working capital loan. So if you received a working capital loan, like an EIDL loan, you could certainly use it for that. PPP, if you receive PPP, 75% has to go for the payroll. And so that leaves 25% for some of the expenses that you mentioned in your questions. Hopefully I answered some of your questions. I have another email. So on your first question about, am I allowed to apply for PPP because I do not have traditional payroll? The answer is, we have been advised that only wages appearing on a Form 941, employer's quarterly employment tax return, are eligible for the PPP. So that's the reason I asked what kind of tax return you have been filing. If you've been filing quarterly reports, and if you've been filing 941, that's another way for you to find out and find out how much you could be.
Yeah.
And that's the only answer that is maybe slightly different from my answer that I gave you previously.
All right. And then
by the way, I was
we had another
researching
question come through the line. Jay Wilkinson asks, how and when does PPP become forgiven? Where can I find the terms for this? Which I've been wondering too.
My goodness. And the reason I say this is because the conditions and the FAQ, frequently asked questions that I have, one of the slides that I have lists the frequently asked questions, and that really covers all of the different cases that apply to when and how the different conditions that apply to taking the forgiveness. So do you have any specific question about a different specific corner case question, Adam?
Let's see. I'm not seeing any other questions yet, so feel free if you guys do have more to go ahead and ask them in the chat or in the Q&A section of Zoom. I think my biggest concern is, you know, if I miss, like, I don't know how often I'm supposed to be paying on a PPP. I don't know. They don't really specify if it's a 5-year, 10-year. Like, I have so many pre-construction notions of how loans operate just because of the way mortgages and other traditional loans work. So then when they say, oh yeah, here's a loan, but we're going to forgive it, I'm like, awesome. How can I do that? That's where there's just that ambiguity and anxiety
Okay,
that arises from that.
fair enough. So the answer to that question is at the end of June, you'll be required to file a report that says this is how you use the money. And for that matter, what I've been suggesting very strongly to small business owners is keep really good records, put the money into a separate account so that you have a traceability on where the money is gone and very clear traceability of how you've used the money. So that's the least that I want to really recommend. And beyond that, you'll be required to file a report, and then they will subsequently give you a forgiveness. So if there's any loan amount that remains, you have 2 years to return the money.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, at 1%. If you use the money in, let's call it ineligible areas that were not listed in the previous list that I.
Right, right. And so then, and you might, and that link might describe the other part of it of at what point, so when I file that report in June, is that when I get a piece of paper from the IRS that says I'm safe and that I don't owe them money and it's been forgiven? Is that when that occurs?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
And what do you see on the screen? Are we back on the?
Yeah. So we're on the presentation. Where
Good,
the
cool.
your share is only for the presentation.
Good, cool. I had clicked the FAQ, and did the FAQ showed up on the screen previously?
No, it didn't. But I think that does answer Jake's question of it's that middle one that has the FAQ.
Yes.
Frequently asked questions PDF that should answer most of the other terms.
Yep.
For you directly.
Yep.
All right. I'm not seeing any other questions.
What these go into the previously covered slides, but I can go over them really quickly. The loan terms for the PPP is 1%, so it's quite favorable. Maturity is 2 years, automatic 6-month payment deferral, no collateral required, you know, some of the things that you've already heard of, no guarantee fee, no packaging fee, no prepayment penalty. So there's a lot of favorable terms. It's just that some of the small businesses have been going through a long wait, and some of the banks have not even been accepting the application. So my heart goes out to each of you that have been able to take advantage of it, but hopefully this round will enable you to do that. So I would say, I would urge you to get cracking right away, right now, go to your banks and start getting on it. And if you choose to go the tax credit route, that's another alternative. You skip all of this and just go down the tax credit route. So I wanted to make sure that you knew about that too, depending on weight.
Cool. All right. That being said, what else were we looking at covering today, Aziz? Or are we kind of at a good
I wanted to
for today?
I wanted to share my email and phone number as well, so that you have access to. Oh, I should also have added my my cell phone number. This is my work phone number um, at my work. So when I send out my PowerPoint, I will make sure that I have my cell phone number. So you're welcome to call me anytime. Remember, you're not alone in this area. We have Jennifer Heckman. She's economic development. Marie Dimkowski, the chamber director, Paul Kimmel. We have all been working together tirelessly to try to help you and try to support you. So feel free to reach out to any one of us and we'll be happy to work. Also, if any of you wanted to avail yourself of business owners that you wanted to bounce ideas off of, you're welcome to do that. Additionally, if you're a small business and this dead period, I call it dead period, sorry for using the term dead, but this slowdown period is a good time for you to look at your processes and procedures, how your business has been operating, what your business model has been. And this is a good time for you to look at and evaluate, what changes you would make when it's time for recovery. And to help you with that, SBDC, I can get Jennifer, we can pull together Adam Jones, Pullman Marketing, to look at, for example, your digital marketing aspect. We can do, SBDC can do financial analysis. So there are a lot of resources that are available that you may not be familiar with. This is really a good time for you to start getting familiar with some of these resources and take advantage of them, because all of our services are no charge. So how good is that? And Pullman Marketing has kindly provided assistance pro bono as well. So we appreciate you, Adam, for your willingness to do that.
Yeah,
and we just completed a detailed analysis of a local business. It's an eatery, and we did a thorough analysis of their website, of their social media, of directory registrations and all of that. So that's all done for no charge. So if you need that done, by all means, contact us. Any other questions?
I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat. So I think we are in a great spot. Thank you so much for everyone attending today. Thank you so much, Aziz, for coming out and braving the long drive. We love using our studio space to assist and making these types of things happen. Thank you so much for everyone, and we will go ahead and close down the meeting.
Thank you for attending.
All right, and then Aziz, you'll have to close it because you're the host.